Call to order the City of Bloomington Board of Zoning Appeals for January the 18th, 2018. Carmen, can you please call roll?
Here. Hoffman?
Here.
Clapper?
Here. We do not have any minutes to be approved. There is one petition. Before I say that, reports, resolutions, and communications.
The only reports we would have, first would, welcome to our new members. Carol Stewart-Gullias, thank you very much for agreeing to serve on the BZA. And Ms. Lee Sandweiss, thank you for your service tonight as an alternate member. We appreciate your service to the community. Happy New Year. We do have an election of officers tonight, but I believe, Barry, I believe you have a motion to that.
I'm going to move that we continue that election of officers since the membership of the BZA will be changing by next month, so it seems kind of premature to do that at this meeting. So I'll move continuance of that election.
I'll second that.
Okay. Can you please call a vote?
Clapper?
Yes.
Sandweiss? Yes. Stewart-Gullias?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Then the only other report I would have is expect to receive some information coming soon about a kickoff meeting for upcoming changes to the Unified Development Ordinance. The city has contracted with a consulting firm called Clarion Associates, and we're going to start an approximate year-long effort to reevaluate, modernize, update the city development laws known as the Unified Development Ordinance. That process will be kicking off in earnest first week in February 5th, 6th, and 7th. Expect to get an email and some information about a meeting for the board members that's going to be taking place on Tuesday, I believe it's Tuesday, February 6th, but more information to come.
Okay, thank you. So we have one petition that will be continued, that is V-37-17 for Dwellings LLC. And the petitions to be heard tonight, I understand we have one that's been withdrawn. So there are two remaining petitions on the agenda. The first one is RS-36-17, which is the City of Bloomington. And then we will be hearing V-32-17, Jeff Mayer Culvers, which was continued from the December meeting.
If I could just add for the public, if anyone's here for V-3417, which is the David Howard petition at 608 North Dunn Street, like was stated, it has been withdrawn and will not be heard tonight.
Okay. Okay, so let's begin with RS-36-17, City of Bloomington. Staff report, please.
Good evening. Okay, so our first petition tonight is a request from staff to amend our rules of procedure for the Board of Zoning Appeals. We recently did a similar amendment for the Plan Commission. It is an effort to increase visibility of petitions for both boards, but for here tonight for the Board of Zoning Appeals petitions, and to be able to identify physical properties that have Board of Zoning Appeals petition requests pending. And basically, it will require that when a petitioner files a request for something that will appear here, so a variance, a use variance, or a conditional use, that they will need to place a sign, a placard on their property indicating that a zoning request has been filed for that site. So the signs, currently right now, we hand out the signs for petitions that are filed for conditional use, and we're proposing to basically open that to all petitions that the board sees, so that neighbors who drive by or drive or walk by that may not be immediate adjacent neighbors will be able to know about the petition, and it lists the department's phone number, and you can call and request information to find out what's going on there. We also currently in the rules, and this will not change, the petitioner sends letters to property owners deep on all sides up to 300 feet from the property. That will not change. What we have found recently is that sometimes that creates an issue for renters. They don't receive the letter. If the property owner doesn't let them know, then they have no idea. A petition has been filed and they might not find out until it's all completely over. So just in an effort to bring a little more clarity and a little more openness to the process, we're proposing to amend the rules to require signs for all petitions. We are recommending, obviously, approval of the resolution, and we would like to add a condition. One thing that appears to not have been cleaned up when the Planning and Transportation Department was joined together. We used to just be the Planning Department, and then when Transportation joined 3 years ago, the Board of Zoning Appeals rules were not updated just with the nomenclature of adding planning and transportation. So there, I think, are 21 instances where it says planning department or planning director, and we would like to just add that on to this resolution to correct that as well. So I can answer any questions.
Okay. Great. Does anyone have any questions this time? Okay. Then I guess we'll go to the public at this point. Okay. Does anybody from the public wish to speak to this petition? If so, please approach the podium. Okay, seeing none, we are back to the board for action.
Yeah, I'll move approval of RS-36-17, City of Bloomington petition, with the condition of approval that all instances of planning referring to the department or director shall be replaced with planning and transportation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We ready for a vote?
Yes.
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 Petition passes. Okay, the next petition that we're going to hear is V-32-17, Jeff Meyer or the Culvers petition.
Okay, thank you very much. As stated, this petition comes to us from Jeff Meyer and Culver's Restaurants. The property is 1914 West 3rd Street. So this is the western part of the city off of the West 3rd Street commercial corridor. It's located just northeast of the intersection of 3rd and Corey. Railroad tracks to the north and the northwest, Valhalla Cemetery across the railroad tracks, vacant commercial property to the east, master rental to the west, and some single-family homes and vacant commercial land to the south. Property is 2.3 acres. It's zoned commercial arterial, which is a high-intensity commercial corridor zoning district. The growth policies plan labels this as a community activity center area for the community, and the property is currently undeveloped. Give you a little walk around of the property. This is looking from 3rd Street north, slightly northwest. You can see the master rental, one of the master rental buildings just to the far east side or the left side of the image. You can see some of the trees on the property, which we'll be talking about considerably. And this is looking northeast. This is from the intersection of 3rd and Corey. You can see the shared private drive that'd be used by this property as well as master rental there to the west, looking northeast. And again, you can see some of the stands of trees that we're talking about. There are 3 variance requests tonight. So the petitioner has brought forward 3 variances. And again, a variance is an approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals to do something different than what is normally allowed in the UDO in a particular zoning district. I'll give you a little bit of history on this petition. This was heard at our December Plan Commission meeting, but no action was taken. There was a 2-2 tie, which automatically forwarded this petition to this hearing to discuss the matter again. I would note that the BZA does need a vote of 3 affirmative on any action in order to take action on a petition, so that 3 is a majority of the 5-member membership. But the variance request is threefold, and we've been working with the petitioner for many months to help them navigate the UDO, help them figure out the best way to develop this property. that will serve their needs as well as come as close as possible to meeting the city's development laws. But there are three parts of the UDO that they found they're not able to meet. The first is the city's maximum parking requirements. The second is the city's drive, aisle, and parking setback requirements. And the third is the tree preservation standards in the UDO. I'm going to take these one at a time and give you a little overview of the nature of the requests. First up is the parking variance, and the board sees many parking variances. Bloomington is unique. Most cities have minimum parking requirements. Bloomington actually has a maximum parking requirements. Any particular business is prohibited from building more than a certain number of spaces, depending on the type of business, depending on how big the business is. But we found that some of those numbers don't work exactly right. Every restaurant is not the same. Every office building is not the same. And the board sees on numerous occasions requests to do more parking than what is normally permitted. A restaurant of this size which is approximately, the proposals for approximately 5,500 square foot Culver's restaurant, would normally be permitted no more than 55 parking spaces. The proposal tonight is for 75 parking spaces. They have conducted a study of other similar Culvers in similar situations around around central Indiana, and based on the number of employees, based on the seating capacity of the restaurants, and the fact there's very little opportunity for shared parking on neighboring properties or utilization of street parking, they believe that 75 spaces is necessary for a restaurant of this type, of this size. And the planning department, we do agree. Based on the numbers they've presented, it does appear that they would need this many spaces for this size of restaurant. The second set of variances deals with the parking setback. This is really a twofold request. The first is for the actual parking spaces, and the second is for the drive aisle in the southern part of the property. The UDO requires a 20-foot parking setback behind where the building is located. So a developer places the building on the property based on the setbacks and then measures 20 feet further from the streets than the building, and that's where parking is required to start. In this particular case, which we'll get to a little bit more in a minute, there's quite a bit of trees. There's a little more than an acre of trees, I believe, on the property, and they are making an attempt to preserve as many of those trees as possible, and those trees just happen to be in the back. So the petitioner could meet that parking standard, parking setback standard, but it would push the parking even further from the street, deeper into the lot, and would make it even more difficult to preserve those trees. So that's the first part of the parking setback variance, is to allow for those parking spaces to be forward of that 20-foot line. The drawing in front of you has that 20-foot line in red, and there's approximately 5 parking spaces forward of that red line. The second part of the variance request is within the parking standards, there's requirements about the drive placement. You don't have a separate slide. You don't have a separate slide. And the UDO prohibits drive aisles from being in that parking setback also. The purpose of that is, again, to create situations where the buildings are the prominent thing on the property. There's good interaction between the building and the streets, but in some cases, it just isn't feasible. And the petitioner believes that in this case, it's not feasible, and mainly due to the location of that shared drive. So we talked about the shared drive between this property and the property to the west, the master rental property, and that shared drive accesses a signalized intersection at the 3rd and Corey. And when cars are stopped at that signalized intersection, cars will stack up. And once you get about 2 or 3 cars on that shared drive, there is no opportunity for vehicles exiting that drive-through to go anywhere. They can't exit onto the shared drive because of the stacking. So the petitioners propose a narrow one-way aisle that would come in front of the building to be able to provide another opportunity to get the cars out, back out onto the transportation system. In addition, any car going eastbound on 3rd Street is also going to have to use that light. So even if a future customer is not using the drive-through, but they're heading back in towards the city, they'll have to use that that shared access drive because of the median in West 3rd Street. So they wouldn't be able to use the second access that's been designed. So further exacerbating the problem of stacking of cars at the signalized intersection at 3rd and Corey. And again, the planning department does see this as a peculiar condition on the property, and we do recommend the board approve it. Finally, we get to the tree preservation. This 2.2 acre property contains approximately 1.1 acres of woods. It's a little less than 50% of the property covered by a wooded area. The Unified Development Ordinance has a graduated scale for how much of a wooded area has to be preserved on a property when it's developed. So the more a property is covered with trees, the less a developer has to preserve it. So property that just has a few trees, you need to keep them all. Property that's 100% covered with trees, you are only required to keep half of them. In this particular situation, the petitioner would be required to maintain 70% of the tree canopy, 70% of the wooded area, which amounts to about 0.9 acres. So 0.9 acres of the tree canopy would be required to be preserved on this 2.3 acre property. The petitioners are proposing an alternative arrangement. They believe that the shape of the canopy, as you can see here, the light green, roughly is the shape of the wooded area. It's very unusual. Preserving 0.9 acres of that would create a very unusually shaped piece of land for development. So instead of hitting that 0.9 acres, they're proposing to preserve 0.41 acres and have developed a mitigation plan to offset the impacts of removing those trees or that acreage. And what they used to calculate the number of trees was the replacement of 22 native trees that are on the property that would be removed. They did a tree survey. They looked at all the trees in the wooded area, all the trees in the area to be cut down, and they found that there are 22 native trees, 10 inches, that were of a considerable size, not very small trees, but of a considerable size. I believe it was 10 inches. So they'd be proposing to replace all of those. So this would be 22 new native trees replaced on the site. Since the last meeting, they've refined their landscaping plan. They've refined the placement of the trees. They've been working with our environmental planner to pick the appropriate species. We believe that this plan will probably be tweaked a little bit more as we get further into the development cycle. There may be opportunities as non-native and invasive trees and understory growth is removed, that maybe some of the trees can be placed in some of the existing wooded area. But the landscape plan put together includes all required landscaping as well as these 22 new 4-inch caliper trees. And 4 inches is significant. Typically, new landscape trees only need to be 2 inches. So this is it's a larger tree, be more healthy, it would be able to integrate back into the wooded area more quickly. So again, the department does recommend approval, and I believe Lee Huss from the Parks and Recreation Department will be speaking in just a minute to give you a little bit more information about the state of that wooded area. Wanted to touch on very briefly some of the questions that were raised in the last meeting. So the board members did have a few questions about the project, and we wanted to just reiterate some of those. One of the questions asked was about the proposed distance between the building and the street and how that compares to other buildings in the area. And we put together this analysis. The proposed culverts will be about 86 feet from the right-of-way to the structure. And there's a range of setbacks in the area from 15 feet at the Advance Auto property up to almost 400 feet for the, was it the VFW or the American Legion, excuse me. It's a wide range of setbacks, but the proposal would be 86 feet. There were other questions asked about ownership of the property. The petitioner is not the current owner yet. They do have options to purchase. And the larger piece of property, the piece on the west side is owned by Melody Music, and the smaller piece on the east side is currently owned by the city of Bloomington. There was a question about how far apart the two drives would be, the new drive cut onto 3rd and the existing shared drive at the Corey Light, and that's about 175 feet. And there was a question about other parking lots of similar size in the general area. The American Legion has a very large parking lot. The Advanced Auto to the southwest has a larger parking lot. And then I'd also add some of the outdoor storage associated with the master rental to the west. So in summary, 3 variances. A variance from the maximum parking, and the petitioner has shown that a restaurant of this size needs, of this type and this size does need the requested number of spaces. The parking setback variance really deals with the need to have a secondary way to get cars out from that signalized intersection, as well as pushing the parking forward in the lot to allow for maximization of the tree preservation. And again, the tree preservation variance to allow for an arrangement where some of the woods are preserved and then the removed trees would be mitigated on site with new native trees. With that, the department does recommend that the BZA adopt the findings as recommended in the written reports. We do recommend you approve the variances with the conditions listed in the written reports. And just to highlight a couple here, number 3 deals with the replacement trees being a minimum of 4 inches in caliper and all native species. And number 6, this was discussed at the last hearing about submitting a mitigation plan for the wooded area that not just addresses those large canopy trees, but also addresses the understory and the mid-story growth as the petitioner gets in and removes the invasive species. And with that, I believe the Planning Transportation Director, Terry Porter, has a few words to say, and then you'll hear from Lee Huss from the Parks Department.
Hi, good evening. I'm Terry Porter. I'm Director of the Department of Planning and Transportation for the city. I just had a couple of comments, primarily with regard to concerns about tree removal. The Planning and Transportation Department believes that the Culvers project is a good balance between the project itself and the enhancement and preservation of the green space in this location. This lot has been vacant for many years. It's a difficult site to develop. And James has already mentioned our city forester, Lee Huss, was with us last month, and he let us know that he believed the site had been scraped sometime in the 50s or 60s and was just allowed to grow back naturally, which helps explain the overabundance of invasive plants and trees and the small number of healthy native species on the property. The developer is proposing to enhance the site, and we'll hear more about that. But they have committed to removing the invasive plants and unhealthy specimens and replacing with healthy native trees and plants, and also a landscape mitigation plan to keep the invasive species from returning. And when Culver's approached Planning and Transportation many months ago about locating a restaurant at this site, we were skeptical. However, after working with them for the better part of a year and walking the site and carefully considering their proposal as a whole, Planning and Transportation staff fully supports the granting of the requested variances for this project and believe the landscaping enhancements will result in a beautiful tree canopy that will be enjoyed for years to come. And Mr. Huss is here, but I believe he wants to save his comments for a little bit later. So I'll sit down and thank you very much.
Okay, so now we're on to the petitioner's representative. If you could please come to the podium, state your name.
Jeff Fanyo.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have 20 minutes to present your petition.
Thank you. As James said, we are asking for 3 variances, the maximum parking spaces. We did a study of 4 stores that they own. One in Fishers is exactly the same size as this, I've been told. And it has, I didn't really write it down, but it has a total of 94 spaces, but about 25 of them are off-site. And at times of the day, all 94 of those spaces are full. Some of the other 3 were smaller stores by 500-600 feet, and they all max out their parking during their peak hours in the 70 parking stall range. The thing about these other stores in Indy is that they're located in areas where they have adjoining parking areas like we have at our mall. The one has a Menards next to them. They lease, I think, 25 spaces or something like that from Menards. Some are next to other large parking lots that they can lease spaces and have overflow, but they'll have fewer spaces on site. We don't have this opportunity. West 3rd Street does not have any parking on it. There's no, the Master Rental, while it has a large marshalling yard, doesn't have any area where we can share parking or lease parking spaces. So we need to provide parking on site. And that's why we did the study and demonstrated that the parking is necessary. The parking setback, James again said we're doing that in an attempt to keep everything forward. James noted that this building is set back about 86 feet from the road. Part of the requirement, situation with this site is that when they widened 3rd Street, sometime around 2009, I believe, they lowered the street for sight distances at this intersection. And as a result, right now, if you go out there, there's a several-foot incline right adjacent to the street. We have to get into the site and get access to that, and actually ADA access into the site. You can see it there in that shot, how much elevation change there is. So we had the slope or the elevation of the road being cut down from what it was originally requires us to have more run to get up to the building site. But as a result of this, actually the parking lots that are closer to the street and needing a variance will be virtually invisible from the street. It's going to be approximately 5 feet, and it varies above street level, so that area really won't be visible. The drive aisle, we put that in there as a way to eliminate the potential for conflicts of vehicles trying to enter and exit the site. This shot here, you can see that Master Rental, they have a very large cut to this extension of Corey Lane. They're about 10 feet behind the sidewalk and then extend all the way to a retaining wall to the rear where you see the orange vehicles in the rear. And so when they come out, they're going to be right at the intersection. Our drive access is about 50-some feet north of that, north of that location. So we'll have some stacking that we can come out, but you can see it won't take very many cars to queue up there and basically lock the intersection. So we were putting this lane in that will allow people to go to the east and access 3rd Street about 175 feet east of this intersection. Regarding the tree preservation, can we show the trees? We've got some photographs that we showed at the last hearing showing the trees that are on site. If you look at these trees and if you look closely, you'll see that there's been a lot of damage to the trees that are there. The trees that we measured, 6 inches in diameter at chest height. I'm not sure if there's a storm that went through there, or if all the vines that are growing on these things weighted the limbs down or iced over or whatever, but there's several broken limbs throughout that wooded area. And the condition of the woods is not very good. So I don't think it's in fact, if you look in EC's commission report, they'll say that we should go in and remove the invasive species and improve the health of that wooded area. Well, it's not a very healthy area, and Lee Huss could speak better to that than I can. But our plan is to go in and remove the invasive species and to, including some of the mature trees that are not native to this area, and then provide a mitigation plan that, again, I think is recommended in the EC report. Some of the mitigation measures that we are proposing is, one, remove the invasive species, replant with larger caliber trees, replant the understory, restore the remaining woodlands to a healthy state, and then maintain these native species after they're planted. There's a recommendation or a condition that we would develop a maintenance plan that would be part of the site plan approval, and again, that's part of our mitigation plan. There is a comment that maybe the space would be tight because of this, of the 22 additional trees beyond the landscaping plan that we're proposing. I think once we get in there and start clearing out the invasive species, you're going to see that we're going to have more room than is visible from these shots you see of these wooded areas. But if they're not, we're also offering to do off-site mitigation measures. I know the city's getting ready to do the Switchyard Park. I know that they have a tree farm north of the dog park on the north side of town, north of Griffey. There's some opportunity for us to even provide additional tree plantings for the city there. One of the comments in the EC report was that we misidentified some of the trees that are desirable. If we did, we would add those to the 22 trees that we're removing that we feel are good trees, and replace those as well. Just a couple more points. Again, we're offering to, even though we're taking out 22 good trees, we're offering to mitigate, we're offering to improve the health of the woods that are there. The places where we did plant the native species trees was an effort to expand the existing tree cover that is going to remain. So we're trying to mitigate what we're doing and make this a better, healthier wooded area. With that, I'll complete my answer any questions you have, and I'd like to maintain whatever time I have for remonstrance.
Thank you. Okay. So
Showing has about 11 minutes.
11 minutes. Okay. Questions for staff or petitioner? No? No?
I have just one. James, is there a policy, or is it just up to the petitioner how an entrance drive is signed? Or do you work with petitioners in that regard? Here's my, since the last meeting, I was just thinking a little more about the exit location in front of the building back to the shared drive, okay? And as I understand the way it's drawn up now, it's clearly going to be signed "Do not enter" because it's a one-way westbound at that point. I'm talking about the front drive that goes back to the shared drive with master rental. It's signed "Do not enter" on, that would be the sign facing west, right? But I'm also a little concerned about people leaving from going the way they're supposed to go out that drive, and the fact that there's going to be entering traffic coming, just what, that's I guess I should ask Jeff, is it about 40 feet, maybe?
It's about
48?
52 feet from the back of the sidewalk.
52 feet, okay. That's not a whole lot of distance if cars are coming through an intersection on Corey or turning right off a Third, doing a fair clip. I wonder if there'd be a way to put a sign east-facing that would just say, you know, cross-traffic doesn't stop, or something to that effect, a stop, you know, something that would let people know, be careful when you're leaving that.
Right. We would work with Andrew Seabor on the details of signage there, but it is important to have on-site signage to direct people to where they're going to head, and
Yeah.
that's part of the.
I just don't want to create an unsafe condition
Right.
with the entering traffic it's going to be going past that point to get to the back to turn in. And I just don't want people to inadvertently pull in front of a car. So just a stop sign might be good enough, but anyway. Okay, thanks. That's my only question.
Any questions?
I just have a small question about the DBH in the tree report. What does that stand for? Diameter pressed height. Diameter, oh, I see, okay, good, thank you.
I have a question for staff. So how will the restoration plan be overseen and monitored into the future?
That's a great question. So the mitigation plan, other than the large trees, is still being worked out. As part of that, we would work on some inspection cycles and anticipate that we would inspect probably after the invasives are removed, probably when the new species are planted, and then follow up at least once, but possibly 2 or 3 times throughout the season, and maybe going into the next season, to make sure things are living. You know, still working on the details on that, other than just the large trees, but it would be a multiple-step inspection.
And is the area to the back that's not going to be disturbed, or that will be maintained, I should say, that's being placed in an easement,
That's correct.
correct? Okay. So that would not then be any different than the way other tree easements and protective, it's not like being given to, you guys, the owner's still going to maintain that area?
Correct. So it would be
Okay.
preserved with the easement. There are 2 different types of easements in the UDO. One is a tree preservation easement, and one is what we call a conservation easement.
Okay.
Conservation easements usually reserved for very pristine areas. Just stay out of it. Sinkholes, wetlands, things like that. Tree preservation is mostly just concerned with the trees, and the terms of that easement can be written in any such way. So we'll write it in such a way where it would be okay for new plantings or removal of invasives, things like that.
Okay, okay. And then just following up on the comment about possible discrepancies in the original cataloging of what's there. So I know we had received a report from Lee Huss, who also went out and took a look at everything. And so I just wanted to make sure that that's all just clear and
Sure. My understanding of the differences really has to do with the way that you categorize a undesirable tree. So the UDO lists, for example, a silver maple as an undesirable tree because the UDO is anticipating people planting trees in parking lots or at the edges of commercial properties. And silver maples have a tendency to drop their limbs and to have a lot of waste and things like that. I'm not sure if this is an exact example of the situation, but a silver maple in the middle of a woods, in a wooded area, there's nothing wrong with that. So some things that were listed as, these are undesirable species that we're not going to be replacing, or undesirable because of a parking lot context, not necessarily
see.
for a woodlot context.
Okay.
And in speaking with the petitioner's representative, we can reevaluate those numbers and find additional places for them, either on-site or off-site.
Right.
Okay. Great. That's all I have at the moment. Okay, so now we're on to public comment. Since we have a lot of people here tonight, can we have a show of hands as to how many people will want to speak, just to get a sense of time? Okay. Okay, great. So I'll invite people to come up to the podium, and you could make a line behind, and then you'll need to state your name, and then I will swear you in. Okay. Can you please state your name?
Nick Kappas.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you have 5 minutes to
All right,
speak.
thank you. Once again, I'm Nick Kappas. I'm Chair of the Environmental Commission for the City of Bloomington. It is established by the Bloomington Municipal Code, and we're here to really serve the community and the city itself in environmental matters in terms of advisement. And as in your packet, there are 2 Environmental Commission memos. Both are recommending denial of the requested variances, especially the tree and forest variance. I think one thing that needs to be really considered here is that woodland is not landscape. It's not aesthetic, it's an ecosystem. And specifically this lot, as highlighted in the recent Habitat Network connectivity plan that the Environmental Commission put forth in front of the City Council, this lot with its 1.1 acres is part of this very important interconnectivity between 2 large environmentally green areas, one being to the north, northwest, and one being to the southwest. And on top of that, if we really want to go into environmentalism even more, there's always an economic to it, an economic portion to it. And based upon some preliminary research that we've done in lot valuation, those that have more natural landscape to it tend to have a little bit higher value to them. And being as, James, can you go to one of the tree photos, please? Understanding, we know there's a lot of invasives in here. However, our point is anything would look bad in wintertime, but this is a full woodland. And we believe that there are so many issues that the petitioner has to get up and over that maybe there might be a better site for this culvers. We're not saying that there shouldn't be a culvers in Bloomington. We're just saying maybe there might be another site that would be more advantageous for them to build. This one, because this area is so vital to that ecological transportation network, that we don't believe that this is the right place or the right time. And furthermore, you know, it's only stripping green initiatives, a green initiative by just saying we're going to replace with 4-inch caliber, because that's not maintaining, that's just it's kind of a Band-Aid. So ultimately, we are recommending denial. Just please consider woodlands are not landscapes. It's ecosystem versus aesthetics here. And typically, we're usually arguing environment versus something economic. This is more along the lines of ecosystem. We need to keep our ecosystem here in Bloomington. This is something that we hold very dear in our community. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Could you please state your name?
Andrew Kinsler.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. You have 5 minutes.
So I am a graduate student in the Kelley School of Business, and I've been attending IU since 2014. And on behalf of all of the students within the Bloomington community, I do believe that this would be a good fit for the vast majority of us. So many of us do come from hometowns in which the Culvers are very nearby, and it tends to be a place that a lot of us students like to go with our friends and family. So and there are multiple reasons that I do tend to feel this way. So the first would be the encouraging and the welcoming community that all of the Culver's restaurants tend to provide. It's a place that I've always looked forward to going to eat with my friends and family since as long as I can remember, and I don't ever see that changing. Additionally, on this campus, there is a high population of students of which that are Catholic, including myself. So especially Culver's always tends to come into play well, especially during the time of Lent. So on Fridays, we don't eat meat, and I know, speaking on behalf of myself and many other Catholic students in which I have talked to about this, it's a place that we like to go on Fridays with our friends and families back home to get a high-quality fish meal at a reasonable price. And right now, at the time within Bloomington, I feel strongly that there aren't a whole lot of other options that do provide that type of high-quality service. And it's definitely something that I look forward to going to when I go home. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the students are from areas in which that have a decent amount of Culver's around them, and speaking for myself, it's definitely one of the first stops I make when I come home for break. So it would definitely be nice to have the Culver's, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name.
David Wigington.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
5 minutes.
Just real quickly, a couple of things. One that's already been pointed out is that having been on this site and driven by this site a number of times, the parking setback and things becomes sort of inconsequential from the street level at least, because it's set so high. I think it's aesthetically at least basically the same as what the requirement is. As far as the woodlands go, I'm certainly not an expert on those things, but zoning and planning is about forward-looking, and I would just encourage you to look forward 15 or 20 years as a site that's been stripped in the past. 15 or 20 years without development, this site's not going to get better on its own. The invasives and the non-native species are going to continue to thrive, and vines are going to continue to take over. And so without intervention and development 10, 15, 20 years down the line, I don't anticipate that this property is going to be in better health than what it would be with development. I think that the mitigation plan is certainly encouraging, and I think the petitioners have seemed, at least from my perspective, to do their very best to work with the department for many, many months, coming up with a workable solution. And then the final thing I would say is just on an emotive level, Jeff Meyer and John and Alice Laskowski, the business partners in this project, are just the kind of people that we want to keep in Bloomington. They're the kind of people that we want opening businesses in Bloomington and not elsewhere. And they're, the Laskowski name has been associated with Bloomington and Indiana University for many, many years, and I think is an asset to the community that we want to keep. And so I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please state your name.
Hi, I'm Susan Graves.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
5 minutes.
I first wanted to comment about the ecosystems and such. It seems like I grew up in Highland Village and have commuted that street my entire life, basically. Now, I'm a realtor and I still am out there all the time. I have never seen that specific lot area to ever look very nice. It always seems to be very scrub and didn't seem to have very many quality trees just from the drive-by of it. Also, I want to comment about the Culver's. I mean, we saw this in the newspaper probably 3 to 4 years ago, and every time I go out of town and I'm flying down a highway, I know that I can get a quality product out of Culver's, and I have longed for that to get here, and I hope that you'll consider and vote this in. Maybe others in the near future on other areas of town could be smaller or adjust. I really think that this will go over well. I think it will be a great competing product with everything else there. A couple notes that I made on it are, the name Better Burgers is the only thing that I found offensive initially. I thought, oh, man. And my friends in other areas kept saying, go try them out and see what they're like. And I went, and it's like, now I watch for that. That's the number one place if you want a quick meal to zip in there, get it. A few notes that I made about their product are, if you like high-quality food at reasonable price, food served quickly, literally made to your request, very clean restaurant, and a variety of homemade ice creams, this is one to desire here. As I think of other fast food locations around here, if you want to go get a burger, either the burger quality is substantially inferior to this, or you don't get it your way. So I, in the end, hope that you'll carefully consider, what has that lot been like over the last 30, 40, 50 years? Has that been something that we've highly valued what it was and what it was there before? I really think that that would be a good location. Why not give it a try? I think that there will be some others that will probably open up after that. Thank you for your careful consideration.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Hi, Jeff Smith.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Best I can tell, this meeting's about their variances, not how good their hamburgers and all that is, but I think Mr. Faneuil and those guys have done a wonderful job to fix all those problems. And not that they're necessarily problems, but I think they've got good recommendations to do what needs to be done to make that project work. And not to mention, I'm always happy to see more new employment come to this town, no matter what business, what they're selling. And I'm like Susan, I've lived on that side of town, worked on that side of town my whole life, and that lot is not very pretty, and it will be a major improvement. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Lisa Smith.
Could you, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, 5 minutes.
As a resident of the city of Bloomington, I just wanted to offer my thoughts on the benefits of adding a Culver's. And I, too, have worked in that area in a family business for many years in the area that is now Lee Supply, right next to Landmark. So I've traveled that West 3rd Street many times throughout the years. And for as long as I can remember, and still today, that stretch between Rogers Street and Highway 37 has always been very low profile, kind of a utilitarian, and even in some situations a little bit dilapidated along there. It's not much of a very exciting entrance to the city of Bloomington. So it seems to even create a divide between the west side and downtown area with nothing really to draw folks from one side to the other of town. So it's kind of no man's land. So I believe that a fresh new Culver's restaurant would spark interest in that area for other new businesses to also settle on West 3rd Street. Also, there seems to be a need for quality food in quality fast food in Bloomington, and Culver's, like so many others have said, offers a step up from the drive-through offerings from just the basic fast food restaurants. And it's still a family-friendly atmosphere and also a family-friendly price point. Culver's is really popular, similar to the Chick-fil-A on the east side of town. I think it's a family-owned business still. It's not a mega chain like McDonald's or something like that. So Chick-fil-A, I think, is another example of a well-run quality restaurant. And Culver's offers even a wider range of menu items and table service as well, which is a welcome addition at a lower price point. I also thought that with many apartments in this area within just a few miles, that there is bound to be a real need for some food in the area to serve all those residents. So for all those reasons, I'm looking forward to this exciting new addition to Bloomington. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name.
J.C. Halls.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
5 minutes.
All right, thanks. Just a couple of things. One, I've been a big Culver's fan for a long time, and I was so excited when I heard that they were coming here to Bloomington. In fact, I went to Columbus several times just to be able to eat at Culver's, and I actually talked to that owner there and was begging them to bring the franchise here to Bloomington. So one, I love the quality of the food. I love what they do. Two, the people that are involved with the Culver's here are wonderful people for the community. I love what they do in the community. Like Jeff said, anytime you bring new jobs into Bloomington, that's a great thing. And I love what they do within the restaurant as far as it being a family-oriented atmosphere, something that you can always be proud of when you walk in there. I love the quality of the food, the quality of the employees that are there. And I'm excited that Jeff and John Laskowski and their family can be a part of the Bloomington community and actually make a positive impact for the employees that work there and the people that are going to visit. And finally, I thought they did a great job of the issues that were brought up earlier with the variances and the different things that Jeff had to come back with. I thought they did a great job of meeting those needs and fulfilling what they were, the requirements that they were being asked to do. So I hope that you take serious consideration into bringing the Culver's here to Bloomington. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Hi, Jim Souders.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, thank you.
Great.
I'm a Bloomington property owner, a graduate from IU, 2 degrees, been here since 1977 in Indiana University. Now, first of all, I want to say, what a great job to sit here and watch this all in action. I think these guys did a great job and the questions and things. And, you know, we're here, again, about the variances and not about the great food, you know, with it, which, you know, I do love. But it was interesting to hear the expert talk about the growth and the undergrowth, but the one thing I just kept hearing is the invasive species. And when you look at that lot and you see those invasive species, and he's talking about sometimes it's better to let it maintain. Nothing's being maintained there. That property looks terrible. And you look at this landscape here and you envision the new species that are going to be there, and I just have a feeling that there will still be an ecosystem there. Where there's a tree, there's an ecosystem. And I think it will be a better ecosystem, and I would urge you guys to vote for yes for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Jeremy Carpenter.
Please state your name.
Jeremy
I
Carpenter.
couldn't hear.
You did.
You did, okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God, I do.
Thanks.
Lifelong Bloomington resident here, also a career county firefighter. I'm here to show my support as a citizen, not only for Culver's, but for capitalism, entrepreneurship, and freedoms here in America. You know, this is about zoning, and, you know, forgive me for stating the obvious, but this fight seems to me as an outsider to be more about the fact that it's a franchise store and the core beliefs of its founder than it does necessarily a zoning thing. You know, to echo what has been said before, that this property is one of the many I would call kind of eyesores of that mile stretch or so. To put something like this there, I think would be a vast improvement. Anyways, as I said, I'm here, I'm asking these variances be approved, this fight to conclude, and ultimately Culver's to be allowed to come to Bloomington. It does seem to me that everybody is doing their due diligence on that end to adhere as closely as possible to the zoning as well as remaining functional. You know, I just want to ensure that it's heard why Bloomington needs Culver's. You know, also, would this opposition still exist if the name of the proposed establishment was a Big Jim's Butterburger Diner? Sitting on the outside, I assume not, and it's silly this is all kind of over a name, but well, let's cut to the chase here. There's no other restaurant in this area like a Culver's. Its food is amazing. There's not one around here. I mean, you have to travel an hour to eat at a Culver's. And when I first heard it was coming here, you know, I was like a kid on Christmas Eve waiting to, you know, open the presents, and here we've been waiting forever. So its food's amazing, its customer service, and its community outreach is exemplary. Dining there is an all-around amazing experience, and this establishment, with its values, its community support, and its unrivaled food and service, cannot fairly be compared to what it's being categorized as. Culver's is unlike any other chain restaurant. If you've ever been inside one, you'll see, especially at wintertime, they offer windshield scrapers and lock de-icers and things like that to their patrons that you're not going to find at what it's categorized as a chain store. You know, when's the last time you heard of some of these other restaurants that's being categorized as stepping up and really helping their local communities? There's a couple examples of Culver's all over the nation. I'm just going to pick out a couple. In November 2017, the Danville, Illinois store helped support local blood drive efforts by giving away a free pint of frozen custard to customers who donated a pint of blood. Naples, Florida did the same thing in December 2017. Only they gave a free movie ticket away as well. You know, on top of this, there was a store in Madison, Wisconsin. All 3 area local stores in July of 2017 donated 100% of their sales for a day to help to the cause, to help benefit the family of a contractor who died during an armed robbery. These are just a few instances of helping their local communities that Culver's steps up, and it's not just a restaurant. George Culver started as a franchisee of A&W, and then he saw a need and created Culver's. Imagine if Sauk City, Wisconsin fought him like this to start his A&W because of the name, and what we would have missed out on. So I thought we still lived in America where entrepreneurship, capitalism, and growth weren't supposed to be impeded or regulated. In closing, this cannot be compared to anything we currently have here. There's a reason people from here drive an hour to go eat at this establishment. It's not just eating there that's amazing. So to allow this fight to continue is completely against what this great nation was founded upon. We need this diversity here. We're all about diversity. And we need this amazing food. We need this customer service. We need this kind of business in our community to help in the hard times and to give people great jobs. And most importantly, I think we need some people with deep Hoosier roots, like its franchisees, to help our community. And as a citizen, I ask that you all just do the right thing and approve these ordinances. It seems they've done their due diligence to try to adhere to while remaining functional. Thank you.
Thank you. No clapping, please. Anybody else would like to speak to the petition from the public? Okay. Any final comments from the petitioner? I think you have about 11 minutes remaining.
I won't need all 11, but I would like to just hit on a couple of issues that was brought up during the discussion. First of all, we originally got an approval further west of this location about 3 years ago. And that deal didn't work out, the land deal didn't work out, and they couldn't build there. And since then, they've been looking, for the last 3 years, they've been looking all over Bloomington trying to find a location. Nick made a comment, said maybe it shouldn't be at this location, but they've looked at all sites around the community, and really, they are not finding another location. Because that being said, Nick also made a good comment. He said, we're not looking at a landscape, we're looking at a woods. And originally, when we came in, we hired a landscape architect, and she came in, and I think she did a landscape. And we got the message from listening to the Environmental Commission and said, we're not looking for a landscape, we're looking for a woodland. So we went back and put together a mitigation package that is going to improve the health of this woodlands, and not make it a landscape, but actually make it a healthy woodland. And I mentioned the things we're doing to mitigate what we're doing, but improve the health of this area. And we think it will actually improve what is happening there versus what's going on now. Another comment was made that no one's maintaining this. If this doesn't happen, no one's going to maintain it until someone else comes along, and then they're going to run into the same difficulty to me. And one of the things I didn't mention in this month, but I did last month, that James hit on, is that the shapes of this woodland is such a way that really the eastern property only has a very small area. I think there's a 0.11 acres of developable ground. When we bought that, or my class bought that land to combine it with the Melody site, which is 1.47 acres, there's not much usable ground in there. And so it's really hard to utilize the ground that's available. So we're going to have to cut into these woods to make this site developable for anybody, not just us. But I think in the end of the day, if we keep working, when we get in there and start mitigating, and we've done this before on Gurley Pike, there was a site where you had to mitigate just to figure out what we had to work with. When we get in there and get out the invasive species, we're going to have a better idea of what we can do with the site. Do these 22 trees or however many trees it comes out to, because we're counting silver maples now, we'll have a better idea of what we can work with. I think it's a living project. We're putting into place what we're committing to do. We're saying it here in a public hearing that we're committed to mitigating the health of that woodland, and that we'll do what's necessary to make it a healthy ecosystem as well. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so now it's back to the board for action.
I'll move approval of V-32-17 based on the proposed findings and conclusions in the staff report and with the 6 conditions of approval that are set forth in the staff report.
A second. No, you.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I voted for this last month, and I plan to vote for it again. I think it's very clear that there's practical difficulty in developing this particular property, and that practical difficulty is peculiar based on the conditions of this property. And I think this is a reasonable compromise for how to accomplish that.
Any other comments?
I just want to thank the staff for working so long and hard, and for the petitioners for really trying to meet the needs of all the people who care about the woodland area. And I'm going to vote for this, but not because I don't believe in regulation. I think regulations are vital and necessary to keep our town healthy, and I think that in this case, there has been a lot done to try to be flexible and respect those things, as well as allow what is clearly a popular business to come into town. So I just wanted to share that.
So I think we're ready for the roll. Carmen?
Yes.
Sandweiss?
Yes.
Clapper?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
Petition is passed. Congratulations, we are adjourned.